let's talk about mixing, what it actually is, not so much on a technical level, but on an artistic level. How is it musical? Why do we need it? What do you look for in a mix engineer? All that stuff that actually matters as an artist. What happens to your music when it gets mixed? So in my opinion, to best understand mixing, you actually have to step back and look at live music first. Live music is awesome. We all love it. A lot of us are here largely because of the impact that live music has had on us. It captured our hearts at some point. It's human, it's dynamic, it's emotional, it's unpredictable. Unfortunately, when a song, or even a single sound for that matter, gets recorded and squished into a few little bits in an MP3 file or a WAV file, you lose that humanness and the rawness and like the emotion and the sense of being in that moment. And so much of that magic is gone once it's just kind of like crushed down into a few little digital bits. It's not the same thing. Okay, let's break that down a little further though. Let's say we're at a concert or even like a house show or something where live music is happening. Even if it's just like a singer-songwriter singing and playing acoustic. So even the room itself is responding to the sound. With the singer's rise and fall in dynamics, they're activating the acoustics more in the room. And so the bigger they go, the louder they go, the more the sound physically envelops you all the way around. In a recording, the dynamics of the room moving and breathing and responding to the sound gets baked down into those few bits, right? Another thing, let's say there's a nice big speakers and they're moving the air in front of you and you can feel the sound in your chest. And the dynamic range is just unbelievable. It could be conversationally quiet in like really emotional, intense moments. And then it could be like blasting your face off, and every transient, every spike of audio information just like hits you in the face. When that gets recorded, there's a limited bandwidth. There's actual like a limit to how loud it can be. And then on top of that, the listener has a volume knob that can bring that on a scale of they could go down to 5%. And then their ears are literally tricking them into thinking that it sounds worse. Their dynamic range is much less. They're noticing less things in the song that you put in there. So that advantage is gone too. Another one, even your ears like physically add to sound, and they perceive dynamics and they perceive frequencies different in real life, like in a real acoustic environment and with real dynamics and changes in volume. That gets lost too when you record. So the natural response of your ears even is different. Another big one is the visual element. So when you're at a concert or maybe like a house show or something, you're looking at the artist's expression and their movement and the way they're feeling the music, the way they're interacting with you and the other people there. As an artist, they probably have some kind of like vibe or aesthetic that's adding to what you're hearing, and you're literally assuming things about what you're hearing based on what you're seeing. Maybe you have, maybe it's like in a living room and it's kind of cozy and quiet and everything is close, and that's adding to the vibe or the aesthetic. Maybe there's this colossal stage with crazy lights, and so your senses are engaged, and your brain actually uses other senses to help you interpret sound. That's lost with live music as well. The personal element of human presence is also gone. That one is huge. I can't even quantify that. Like people playing for you versus hitting a little button on a screen and an audio file playing. So mentally and emotionally different. And I could keep going, but these are just a few things that get lost in the process of recording and reproducing and digitalizing a piece of music. So it goes from a 3D experience involving the whole space around you and many of your senses and even like relational existence with other humans. This gets shoved into a little file with a right ear half and a left ear half, limited bit depth, which is like kind of like pixels, limited frequencies that can be reproduced on certain speakers. There's limited dynamic range in the volume. You can hit it, play on it as many times as you want, and it will never change. It will always be there for you, and somehow that availability devalues it. Live music has the charm and the humanness of life. Recorded music has the potential to lose almost all of that. Whether this is the first time you've heard anything about mixing or you already feel like you know and you just want to expand your thought a little bit, what I want to encourage you to think of mixing as, or challenge you to think of it as, is the actual restoration of human emotion and intention and color and liveliness. A good mix should actually make a song come to life, and it should reveal its intention and the mood that the artist had in mind when they were creating it. So mixing is kind of the answer to the problem that I laid out with recording. Raw audio actually can sound really terrible. So I'm going to show you a recording that's completely raw, no processing, mixing, editing, whatever you want to call it. And then I'll play it against the mixed version back to back. And it's actually, depending on the genre, even more noticeable. There can be an even bigger gulf. So try not to laugh, but I'm going to show you an example of a metal song that I'm working on. This is only after like a day of mixing. It's not done. It's maybe half done. And it might actually be comical. So as you can hear, in mixing, so many things are addressed. There's a lot of parts that contribute to restoring the feel of a song. Or like making it dynamic again and human again. You have dynamics and even the illusion of dynamics when volume doesn't really change. You have like front to back space in the listener's perspective, and left to right space and top to bottom. You're kind of creating a whole new soundscape. You're dealing with the textures of each sound, so whether it's like crunchy or wooden or crisp or shiny or fat or round or smooth or buttery or thunderous or brittle, you're actually like shaping the textures and the tones of each sound. It's hard to describe, but you have a lot of power as a mix engineer. You're dealing with like a sense of smoothness versus punch. You're dealing with the perceived size of each sound. You're working with contrast. You're working with things that aren't actually noticed, but still contribute to your perception of what you do notice. Things that you just hear. Things that you not only hear, but that singularly grab your attention and guide your ear and guide your thought. There are so many things that a mix engineer deals with in your song. I could keep going, but these are just the big ones that came to mind first. So a good mix engineer thinks about all of these and more. they're responsible for so much of the life and the color and the tone and the textures. And so they actually kind of sculpt your song for you in a lot of ways. Okay, I hope that makes sense because it's not very technical, and I'm trying to encourage a more artistic view of mixing. Plus, there's already like hundreds of videos on the technical side of what mixing is on YouTube. And if I was to do like a full explanation of that, it would take me a couple months, and I don't have enough space on my computer or coffee to get that done for you. And that's where you start to see why you should probably be paying someone else to mix your music and not trying to do it yourself. So based on an artistic understanding of what music is, I'm going to give you 4 guidelines to help you find the best mix engineer possible for your goals and for your music and your sound. Okay, firstly and most obviously, you want someone with skill and experience. Secondly, I don't hear this said enough to artists because studio people just want to take their money as soon as the artist comes to them. But you need someone who actually suits your style and your taste, or whose style and taste you want infused into your music, because they will be hearing it as a human with their own emotional and musical context, and as an artist themselves, which they should be if you're considering them to mix your song. They will have their own kind of vibe and their own sound going on that they impart to everything they touch. You want to find people who the common denominators of what they're adding and hearing and pulling out of the artists and emphasizing in their mixes, that has to be something that you want. Like if we had a talk today about who you should get for your next song to mix, based on who you are and what you want your music to be and the way it feels, there would be handfuls of world-class engineers that I would never want to touch your music because they would pull out the wrong things and add the wrong things and emphasize the wrong things. So they actually have to either be really aligned with your, like the mood and the intention of your songs, or have a really specific vibe of their own that you want added. Thirdly, this is similar, but you want someone who's humble and intentional and thoughtful enough to really grasp what you're going for with your music and the moods that you have in there and the intentions that you have in there. But someone who's not just going to assume that their way is best or assume that the context in their own mind and their own preference for music is the best context to interpret yours through. You want someone who's truly a good listener, like as a human being, who will hear your music for what you want it to be and is humble enough to work with you to get you there artistically. And number 4 is kind of the same thing. Find someone who is a good person and not a jerk, who you feel comfortable sharing your music with, because for so many of us it comes out of such a deep place within us, and your whole experience from start to finish is way better when you work with people who appreciate you and who you feel safe with. So find someone who's not a stuck-up jerk who just thinks they're doing you the biggest favor in the world by mixing for you. So I hope this has been helpful and inspiring, and I hope it helps you find the right people to work with. I hope it makes your process more enjoyable. I hope it makes your music more unique and better. I hope it makes you feel confident in choosing the right help and knowing what to expect out of the mixing process and not expect out of it, and all those things. And how do you close a video like this? Okay, bye. I'm going to be doing more. I'm going to be doing videos on what mastering is, what editing is, what producing is. Things that are actually really helpful for artists. So like, how do you maintain your artistic intent and enjoyment through the process of commercializing something? How do you find the people you want to work with? I'm going to go after some things that studio people don't like to tell artists because it makes them more money. I'm going to talk about what to prioritize, where to put your, like from a producer's perspective who has seen artists and works with them from before a song is even started until after something released and they're promoting it. What areas make the most sense to invest the most in terms of time and money and energy and resources? I'm going to go after stuff that I actually think and hope will be really, really helpful for you as an artist. So stay tuned. Subscribe, or what do people say like that? I don't know. Do stuff and make fun music, and maybe watch more of these if you found it helpful, and